funny. I actually have a Greek word tattooed on my ribs. It's called arete. It's the pursuit of excellence. It's not the pursuit of perfection, but it's being the best you that you can be. I wouldn't mind a Vanquish either. Ferrari Dino.
Okay.
And then a Jaguar E-Type.
Going old school here.
And then an Austin Healey 3000. I like them rounded.
Yeah.
I don't know
like
what number.
Round curves.
Yeah, and then I would probably, something for like more of like a family vehicle. At the end is number 5, but I don't know what that
and a minivan.
would be. Yes, a minivan. I know that not everyone can do this, but if I can do it, someone else can also do it. I'm not the only one who can do it. And I think that's important, like sharing that.
This is the Growing Forward podcast with Mick and Trav.
In this episode, we welcome our high-energy guest, Simone, to talk about her entrepreneurial journey.
That's right. We cover branding, memes, and her serious perseverance as a founder. Enjoy. So welcome back to another episode. We're here with Simone Engbo Hansen, an expert in communication and content creation, also an entrepreneur and founder of Epos Communication. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys, for having me. I'm really excited. We just had some really fun banter just before starting the podcast, so I already enjoy being here.
We're glad.
That's awesome.
Same as here.
We can definitely tell it's going to be fun for sure.
I hope so.
But just to kick us off, can you give us a little background onto what is Epos Communication and what do you do?
First, maybe I should tell why I call it Epos Communication. Epos is Greek. It's ancient Greek. So if you've ever read the Odyssey or the Iliad, maybe you haven't, you don't have to, but that's an epic song or an epic hero's journey, and that's called an epos. And so I want to put the epic back in communication. I want to take every piece of content and kind of make it epic. And that's why I called it Epos Communication, because you should treat every piece of communication like an epic poem. So that's why I call it that. But I also do, so the reason why I do know a little bit about, maybe ancient Greek is because I have a master's degree in rhetorics, which is the art of persuasion, the art of speaking and writing well. So I kind of focus or honed in on the writing part more so. And so I've been in advertising agencies, PR agencies, and then tech startups. And then I founded my own one-woman business or consultancy, you might call it.
Amazing. And what are you doing in your consultancy? Who do you consult with and what do you help them with?
I would say it's probably 75% B2B customers and then the rest B2C. But I mostly do, or what I'm best at is probably brand positioning. And then on top of that, you can do holistic communications activities such as content marketing, copywriting. And what I mean by holistic communications, I would say holistic marketing is probably a bit of a buzzword at the moment. Everybody says, we want to do holistic marketing, but nobody really does it. So for me, holistic communications is you look at every touch point of the customer journey, and then you tie that into your brand positioning or your communication strategy. So it doesn't really have a great effect if, for example, your LinkedIn ads are killer. You're doing great LinkedIn ads and the graphics are insanely stunning and everything is just visually so chef's kiss. But then when you take people back to your landing page, it's crap. Sorry.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of factor in all of the touch points of the customer into the kind of the journey that they go on. And that's what I think of as the holistic communications strategy. That's what I do best, because there are some who are copywriters and they need to be properly briefed in order to write the right copy. I'm the one who can brief them to do that well. And the same with content marketeers, because it's part of the overarching holistic communications strategy. And you could probably also call it positioning. So what makes you stand out? What makes you unique? What are your unique value propositions or your selling points? What differentiates you in the market? And how do you communicate that? What kind of messages or kind of vessels for those USPs can you use to reach your target audience? And yeah, that's my job.
And we just, before we started this podcast, checked out your Instagram, which definitely reflects that you have a unique positioning, because you have the most crazy memes going into your Instagram. Talk a little bit about that.
Meme queen.
The meme queen.
Yes, exactly. So that's actually, I guess it's sort of like a secret dream of mine. I wish I could just do memes for bigger companies all of the time. And every once in a while, every blue moon, I will get a customer saying, can you help us like devise like a meme strategy? Or how can we implement memes in our organic communication? Or even sometimes I'm like, why don't you use it in your ads?
Yeah.
Because we know that 64% of B2B buyers are Gen Z and millennials. And what do Gen Z and millennials like? Memes. There are 3 of us right here and we love memes, right? Yeah. So why not incorporate more of those? And then on my Instagram profile, I curate the best memes that I find. That's the only reason I'm on Instagram. It's just to trawl my feed every day for the best memes that I will serve to the community. Give the people what the people want. Yeah, so that's I'm even trying to incorporate some memes in my LinkedIn strategy.
There you go.
Seeing if it works, and some people do not definitely find it funny, but they're usually also a little bit older because they think it's a more serious place, and I just want to elevate it a little bit. But also, as you said, it's my unique position. I like to poke fun at concepts and people and our industry because marketing can also be way too serious, and so memes is a great way of doing that, I find.
Yeah. And what do you do to transition like a classic meme from something like Instagram or a platform like that into something like LinkedIn, which is much more professional, but is moving more perhaps towards this area? Like what does it take to make a meme LinkedInable?
Oh, that's a great question, actually, because you can't just take anything. So you have to be very aware of the trends going on a certain platform. So there might be trends and concepts going on Instagram or reels that are copied from TikTok that are not immediately translatable to LinkedIn. So I actually usually make my own memes for LinkedIn rather than just copying. And then I take those memes and then I make a supporting caption in the post that I do. So, for example, today on LinkedIn, I posted one about, landing pages being crappy and you got to devise a full funnel strategy or a holistic communications strategy. And then there's like a guy with like too many Uno cards saying like pick a card or like get an extra 25 cards or fix your landing page. And he has like way too many cards. So that was one that I made myself, right? And so I would rather do that also just because it's better if you can be originally funny, I suppose, rather than just copying something that you see. Because then it's a part of my strategy for my personal brand on LinkedIn, rather than me just curating something else that I see, which is what I do on Instagram.
Where does that creativity come from, like in your childhood, like of being super humorous and creative, like
trauma?
Yeah.
What doesn't kill you traumatizes you enough to make you funny, right?
Well, that's
no, I'm
relatable.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Kids, go out and get some trauma. You'll be hilarious when you have to deal with it.
But it is kind of true, right? If you go through something, I was bullied as a child and I felt like I was left out. I was an outsider and I didn't really have a lot of friends to play with or hang out with. So maybe I just devised my own fantasy worlds. I escaped into books a lot and I used writing as an escape mechanism as well, or a coping mechanism. I've always done that. And so maybe me building my own worlds was a way of getting out of that. And then that's like slowly just transformed into the more humorous kind of storytelling. Just because I feel like maybe I'm in a lighter mood now when I'm older. So that's definitely, I think maybe it comes from that. I was inherently creative as a child. I was writing, I was painting, I was drawing, I was doing all kinds of stuff. And I still do that. I do knitting. I will take up a new skill every once in a while just to prove to myself that I can do it. I feel like all of those, they can kind of work together because it's a different, with every new skill you acquire, it's a new way of thinking creatively. So for example, knitting is actually quite logical. It's kind of mathematically set up. So you get that extra degree of logical smart or intellect weaved into the fabric of creativity. Almost literally.
Yeah. Was that on purpose?
It was like kind of, yeah.
That was a good one. That was great. What do you think it is about memes, for example, if we just take memes, like why are they so powerful? Why are they so relatable? Why? Because it like when I think of a good meme, it's just you see it for like 2 seconds and you're like, ha, that's great.
Well, we all want, right now, we want something that stops the scroll, right? We all want a stoppable moment and something that's both visual but also makes you think is definitely worth a stoppable moment if you do it well. And I think memes do that well. But you got to remember that a meme is not only an image with a caption. It actually comes from 1976 in the book The Selfish Gene, written by Richard Dawkins. It's an idea or a subculture that is spread from person to person or subculture to subculture. So being liberal could probably also be a meme. The Lord of the Rings fandom could be one. LOL speak for any of the gamers out there, that could be another kind of meme. And then we have the images with captions, but that's just part of what memes are. Memes is basically like, I think he also called it like sort of like a DNA that transfers from person to person, a viral idea. So once we're part of it, we're a community because we understand this meme, right? And then it can spread to another community and it's going to mutate or transform into something completely different. But because we know it, it's part of what we do and it creates a community and everybody loves a community. That's what every brand wants to do, right? Build the right community where people want to follow you just because you have this sense of unity and fellowship.
I'm just seeing that, the meme with Windows when it was loading in 95 and it's like, if you know this picture, you're from this generation and you're just like, shit, I remember when the Windows took 10 minutes to start up the computer and it was loading and sometimes it never got past that. It's like, oh yeah, it's so relatable.
Yeah, because it's relatable. That's a key term right there. It's relatable. We want something we can relate to. We want stories. We want messages. We want fun. We want something, because it could even be something that's not. Sometimes you see storytelling that's more negative or sad, but it's still storytelling that builds on something great. I don't really have a great example right now, but we all know it. So what maybe what's the PETA, the Animal Rescue Center with Sarah McLachlan? Yeah, because everybody knows that. You've probably seen that. You're from the US, right? You've seen the commercial with Sarah McLachlan in, The World of an Angel, something where everybody's like crying and the bear is dancing and stuff like that. Because it's like because it evokes emotion. That's pathos. It's like it's what we want to do. You either want to evoke emotion, pathos, you want to give logical arguments, that's logos, or you want to do ethos, establish credibility. Pathos is just the easiest way to build some kind of brand awareness.
Is there a correlation there as well as we people or humans want to be a part of something? Is that also what memes gives you? That if you can relate to this, you can be a part of this group? Is there a correlation between that?
I think so. I mean, obviously, I don't have any scientific research that tells me so, but I think so just also from the people that follow me on my Instagram. So some of them, they will follow me and they will find out that the stuff that I curate is not for them because I use kind of dark humor every once in a while because I'm an anxious person. So I share a lot of memes around anxiety and what it means to have like a panic attack, stuff like that. And people find it funny because there are a lot of millennials who suffer from anxiety or they have some kind of letter combination diagnosis such as autism or Asperger's or ADHD. And so they find it super relatable when I share something about, mental illness or being chronically ill. I have migraines as well. And so I want to share like the fun aspect of it, kind of take the irony into it rather than it just being, sad and victim mentality. And so we're all part of this community thing. It's very relatable, but it's also uplifting. Yeah. So they'll be like, haha. And, and then I feel like, oh my God, I touched someone today and their day is better. And they might share it to their friend who also has anxiety, migraine, something else, or has just a bad day. And then we've lifted each other's spirits. That's just the best, right? Isn't it? Isn't that just, if you can brighten someone's mood, has it been a good day?
There's like this feeling of being seen sometimes, right? Like, oh, I've felt exactly that. Yeah. And when you can get that in almost just the snap of a finger by seeing something, like that's actually a pretty powerful thing.
So why not use it in marketing?
Yeah. And when you just said that, I just also read the other day of someone like coming down hard on influencers. And I think influencers get a lot of negative talk in the press and stuff like that. But there is also an aspect of social media that is uplifting, as you say, where you can actually touch someone's day, where they write or they read something inspiring, motivation, or whatever, or they just become relatable to you because you share like, oh, today was a shit day, and you maybe have 50,000 followers, and you're like, holy shit, they're also human, and then you get that relatability to that person, and then it kind of trickles down, right? A positive effect, and it can also have negative effect. But I just think it's good to highlight that there's also good things about social media.
I think so. And that's why I have, as I said, I've kind of curated my own feed because I used to watch like a lot of the influencers who had a certain body standard. And I felt like I had to live up to that. And it was very unhealthy for me to go to Instagram or any other platform and look at something that I felt like I had to live up to. And I couldn't. No matter how much I tried, I would never be able to because these guys or these girls, they work out 3 times a day. And I don't have time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that, right?
Exactly.
So it would never be me. But then I made a very conscious decision to curate my flow of images and influencers, and I cut off the ones that did not make me happy, that did not spark joy, and then I put in a lot of stuff that did spark joy, and that's what I have now. And then I was like, how can I pass that on? So it's also a very conscious choice to pass that on to someone else. Like going every day, even if I'm having a super bad day, if I'm on vacation, I'm going to go in, I'm going to share memes. Because every day I get responses from people saying, oh my God, I love this. Or just the haha wink emoji, something like that, a little heart. And it makes my day. Because in the end, we also seek validation, right? I want the pat on the shoulder just as much as the next girl.
Yeah.
And so it's just a way, as you said, it's like a trickle down thing. And also it's a way of building a personal brand. I'm not going to lie. It's definitely part of a bigger tactic for myself as well. I used to use Facebook as my personal mood board. I would share funny stories that I would see or experience, and I would turn it into something funny because it showed that I could write, and it showed that I could take other experiences and turn it into something interesting, something valuable, something where it's just valued for you, but it didn't take that much for me to make that story up. Mm-hmm. But then now I've moved away from Facebook, and so I used Instagram for that instead with the curating of the memes. And then sometimes I'll make my own memes and put it in my own feed. And then now I'm trying to maybe get that into the LinkedIn feed. I used to be very oh, these are my accomplishments. I was like, nobody cares. Yeah. No one cares. And it's all about sharing value. They always say that you have to share value 9 times and only the 10th time can you sell something. Yeah. And I'm like, what if I don't ever sell? What if I just give value? What if I'm that person? Then maybe more people want to be those who just share value. And that would just be incredible because I want to see more positivity. I need more bright people who want to also brighten my day. Wouldn't that just be awesome if it was more like that? Yeah, rather than, trying to tear each other down or create body standards that no one can live up to or something. Try to do something positive with the platform that you have, no matter how big or small it is. Isn't that kind of what you're doing as well, right? You want to give value to people, and that's what you're doing by creating a podcast where you're interviewing people and getting those experiences out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you hit it right on the nail. Definitely, I think one thing that our coach have really instilled in us over the last 3 months is be there to serve. Once you get that into your mindset to just do that, just serve, suddenly your whole mindset changes around why is it that you should use social media. And we had a coaching call where there was one guy who was like, oh, but why should I be posting on Instagram? None of my customers comes from Instagram. And he was just like, right now you're being selfish. You should look at it like this. If you post something on Instagram and there's one day, there's one person who decides not to drive their car off the bridge, wouldn't you post every day? It's just because you're being selfish. And that really hit me because I have been selfish in my career and my goals and all, and that just completely changed. So every time it's hard to post all the time and give value. But I think ever since that came in, I was just been I just need that one post to hit one person, then it's been worth it. Just one person that needs to look at it. It doesn't matter how many likes it gets, how many impressions or anything. Just one person, please look at this and have a better day. And I think once you start changing that, it's a completely different game.
It's a different game, but couldn't you be both? Could you not be selfish but also serving at the same time?
I don't think you can ever take the selfish out of it.
We're all narcissists at bottom, right?
Yeah. But it's kind of I've done one time I did a Tony Robbins event, right? And there's these these 6 values that we all have, but we all have them in different orders. And one of them is giving back, and he's like, well, we all have the need to be significant, for example. That's one of them.
Feel better about ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What he was recommending was essentially take giving back and shuffle that towards the top. So the selfish one is still there, but if the first priority is giving, then you're kind of aligned in.
And you already have something because you're getting something back, so you don't have to get that need fulfilled immediately. So it's actually really smart because you take that and you're still getting something, but you're also giving something at the same time.
Exactly.
And then you don't need to get more and more. But if you take first, then people don't want to see what you have to give either.
Yeah.
That's what we said. It's just about like the 9 times giving something, and the 10th time you can take something or you can ask for something. Just like, so a lot of people, they focus their marketing on lead generation. That's the bottom of funnel. Yeah. That's asking for information, and people are not ready. Yeah. So you have to create the awareness layer first. You have to create interest, spark interest, evoke emotion, and then give maybe some logical reasoning as to why they should look into your product in the first place. And then, and only then, can you start talking about trust and credibility. And then maybe at the end, you might want to ask them for their email address, but maybe you just shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't gate your content. Maybe you should just make it ungated and just give the value. And then at some point, it's going to create some kind of loyalty, some kind of interest, or enough that people talk about your brand that they want to come to you and they want to give it away for free rather than you having to ask for it. But obviously, that's hard because you can't really measure that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And how much patience do you have, and how many resources are you pouring into marketing without getting a return? I don't know. Now you just really sparked me. I don't know if you know Alex Hormozi.
I was just thinking that.
Well, it's not until the last 2 weeks that I really figured out how it was actually set up. And he just a couple of years ago said, okay, I'm going to go full on my personal brand. But on the one side, I'm just going to give every content for free, and I'm going to make sure that it's much better than what anyone else is taking money for.
Smart move.
Yeah. And he's grown to I think 2.5 million on YouTube now. And I think combined he's at 10 million or something across all platforms. But what was really, really smart is he made some books. Those books are lead generators.
Yeah.
And they are selling, I think they've sold more than 1 million copies now. And every time he launches a book, some of the principles from the book is how he launched the book. So they prove his points. And now what he's saying is,
holistic strategy.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just seen how that have grown. And his take is, I'm going to give everything that I know for you to get to 10 million per year in profit. Once you're there, contact me. I want to invest in you.
Yeah.
But up until then, he's just pouring value into people. And when I saw that thing with the books, I was just like, duh. But he also have a lot of cash to put into it. So it's a very large strategy. But I mean, the returns that he have.
As you said, it's a patience and money game, but still most of us do have time. Because people say, oh, but I don't have time and I don't have the ideas. Ideas can come from anywhere. Yeah. And we all have something unique. You just got to figure out what that is. Don't do what everyone else is doing. So your guys' podcast is probably different than a lot of other guys' podcasts. And that's going to make it interesting to listen to.
Hope so.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But you're probably going to brand it in a different way. You also have your own personal brands. You have a pretty big following, both of you, on LinkedIn, right? Mm-hmm. How did you grow that?
Yeah, by being ourselves, creating cool shit.
Yeah. Yeah, every time we...
But you didn't ask for people to follow you or gather information, stuff like that. It happened pretty organically.
Yeah, just putting stuff out there.
Yeah.
Putting stuff out.
And putting something of yourself.
Yeah.
Your heart and your soul and your personality. And I think that's how you get the most authentic buyers or listeners or followers, is by giving something that's more personable.
Yeah, and we've actually found too, is before we now we're just at the beginning stages of looking into a little bit more social media content creation type of strategy stuff. But before that, we were just finding out on our own that the post that would really take off, that people would really interact with, was when we're like, hey guys, today was actually a really bad day. We had a huge failure. This went wrong, but we're doing our best to get back up. People went crazy for that. And it was it was kind of hard to post it, but we're like, well, it's authentic. We should just put it out there.
It's a good point.
And then people were there for us a little bit.
Yeah, because it's not all, so you see it's all rainbows and sunshine and butterflies. It was like, oh my God, I had such a great day. And I'm making 6 figures. Everybody's apparently making 6 figures from anything on LinkedIn, right?
Per month.
The linked influencers, as we like to call them. Yeah. I mean, but
influencers.
Yeah, right. I don't even know if anybody's ever coined that term, but that's what they are.
Yeah. You heard it first here.
The linfluencers. Well, you're the communication expert.
We'll leave it at that, right? Yeah. But
Thank
now
you
you
for not taking me down
made me lose my train of thought. Well, no, but they post a lot of like very like positive and upbeat, but it's stuff that's hard to look up to, just like the fitness influencers, body standards. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that or that it's wrong to have that, but you just have to be very mindful of your platform. Not everybody is able to reach 6 figures. And it's not like you have to do a disclaimer every time you write a post that you're proud of, but if everything is about you being here on your own pedestal, then no one can reach you. So make sure that they have like a pathway to you and make it more personal and authentic. And a way of doing that is sharing, maybe not when it's all really shitty, but it's about your learnings because people can learn from what you've learned, right?
Yeah. And do you learn more from success or failure? It's definitely from failure.
Yeah, it's like, because that's what is the saying, like perfect is the enemy of the good. If you always want to strive for something perfect, then you're never going to have something to optimize and learn from. So I'd rather deliver something that's good enough, or something that fails. I once had a CEO at a tech startup I worked at, and he said, fail quickly.
Yeah.
All of the time. He was like, fail quickly. There's also like kill your darlings or fuck it, ship it. All of these like isms that people say in the market or like in tech. And it's all the same. It's about just put something out there, test it out, optimize and learn, because we all want something that we can learn from rather than just putting out something that's perfect. Can you really use that for anything?
Do you have a failure that comes to mind that you've experienced in your career that you could share with us?
Oh, that's a good question. I once took a head of communications position and I had a bad gut feeling place. And I think I lasted 2 days. And it was like, for me, it was because I was like, it looks good on paper.
All been there.
Yeah, exactly. And after that, because I was in a good place career-wise, but this was my first like very senior position as a head of. It was a bigger pay and everything just looked great, but it was bad vibes. And this gut feeling I had was like, don't do it. And I ended up just being there for a very, very brief stint, like just a couple of weeks almost. And then I quit again and it was good, but it tore me down. And so I had to build myself up from that. And I think what I learned from that is that this gut feeling, I have to listen to it because it's usually right.
Trust your gut.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, it's not like, because you can't just trust your gut always, because people will be like, because I've done this so many times, so I can always just trust my gut. No, because then you're relying on laziness.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that. But if something feels wrong,
Exactly.
it's not when something feels, oh, this feels right, we can do that, right? Because then you probably have to think once or twice because you've done this before. But if something feels wrong, get out of that boat.
Yeah. There's one thing there that comes to mind when you say that is one thing that me and Travis, because we really love opportunities. I call us the opportunists. And we really want to like do a lot of stuff. But if it's not a hell yes, that means it's a hell no. And that's what you're saying. Like with you can always trust your gut, and you should also back it up with data. And we actually had a guest on the podcast who said, gut first, data, back to gut. That's how she made decisions. And I really like that. But when it comes to like, should I do this? And your gut is saying like, there's bad vibrations here. Then you usually should listen to it.
Yeah, I think so. There will be some opportunities where you're like, all right, but I might learn from this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's good. But if it's just, I don't know why I go into this, then don't do it. There's also some clients sometimes. So I've only had my business for a couple of years, but I've only been full-time in the business for a year. But I am already saying no to some clients that don't want to buy into the strategic fundamentals. So before you can write great website copy or before we can make a great communications campaign, we have to figure out the fundamentals. So we have to do a positioning workshop. It does cost a little bit, but it's not going to take more than an hour where I interview the founders and we look at what are your USPs, how do you differentiate yourself in the market, what are the messages that you use as vessels for the USPs, and yada, yada. How does your brand speak? How does it talk? How does it act? How does it do on different platforms? So it's probably going to sound different in a newsletter than it is going to sound on LinkedIn, but you can afford to be more funny on Instagram than you can on your front page. Maybe depends on what kind of brand you have, but it's just knowing how will your brand act and how will it do. And I think those are the fundamentals that I want to have in place before I can safely say yes to an assignment, because otherwise we might end up in a completely different direction. And who are they going to blame? Probably me. But I'm going to say, this is what you bought into. But I want to deliver something. I'm at this point where I'm like, I want to do stuff that I am proud of. I want to lift people, but I also want to do stuff that I am proud of. And, gone are the days where it'd be like, all right, if you want me to do this, I can do it. I mean, I can deliver. Can't promise you any results, but, I'll do it. I'll write it, right? And I think I'm further along now where I want to create something where when I look back, I'll say, oh, I did my best.
Just hell yeses.
Well, I also have to, pay my mortgage, but but yes.
As close to possible.
Hell yes.
And getting better every year at that, of course. Yeah.
If I was a tech founder, right? I wanted to build my company's brand now. What is your process if I wanted to be a customer with you?
So I would start with an interview session where we kind of map out all of these. First, we would probably do like an intro session where it's just like, are we vibing, right?
Yeah.
Is it a hell yes?
Do you like the same
Do you
memes?
do you have a good gut feeling? Otherwise, let's...
Is that how you interview them? You show them a meme and then you note how they react?
Yeah, that would be fun. Does this remind you of your father? Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. No, I also work with people who don't like memes, I think, or who don't understand them. Yeah. I'm accepting of people who don't like memes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not for everyone. And also, as we have to remember, memes as in images with a caption, that's just one type of meme. But humor and marketing can be something else. Maybe you can create your own meme. Like, is it like an Easter egg that you hide in your writing or in your product launches, something like that? That could be a meme. That could be something else, but it doesn't have to be an image with a caption. I would do like a smaller positioning workshop. And what that entails is me interviewing you, and if there are other founders on board or other key stakeholders that I should be aware of and that you are usually sharing knowledge with, then we would get you all in a room. I recently did it with a marketing agency, and there are 3 guys. Okay. And so I would interview. I would grill them. Let's be real.
I would roast them.
No. There's a difference between grilling and roasting, and it was not that burned. Okay. So we did the grilling for like an hour and a half, and we'd also done some prep grilling like a couple of weeks prior. So I kind of knew what I was going into. Talking about what was unique about them, what was unique about their offering, why did they start this agency? When there are so many agencies, what makes them different than other people's and other players in the market? What kind of segmentation do they have? What kind of clients do they have? Because that also tells me about what tonality that their brand should be using, because they were both B2B and B2C, which means that the communication has to be broader. Rather than if you're doing B2B, you probably have to be a little bit more corporate. And B2C, it's just like, fuck all, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. Usually. Yeah. So that's kind of what I took away from it. But I just had like a list as long as my arm with questions for them all. And then I took that and I distilled it into a mini guide, like a brand guide with what's the shortest way to describe their company, and then the longer way, if they had to kind of give us a longer explanation or a boilerplate for PR or something like that, then there are 3 USPs as I saw them, and they're all very unique, very different. And then messages, which means like examples of how you can use those USPs on, for example, in your communication strategy or on your platform, something like that. A little bit about segmentation, just a little bit about like what is the brand? What kind of tonality should you go for in most of your communications efforts? Yeah. So, and from then, we would probably devise a real strategy. Because then how do we implement this? Does that mean that we have to update your website? Probably. Yeah. Unless you already have thought of this, right? Yeah. Do your USPs figure prominently on your website? If not, let's get them in there, right? And, your about page shouldn't be too long and filled with all of your accolades, but talk about some kind of storytelling that people actually want to read about, stuff like this, and your services as well. Just get that nicely in there. Should you have a blog? Should you have a podcast? Like what kind of content do you want to put out there? And then can we do a content calendar from there? What about your organic growth? What about your paid growth? Should we employ someone who's really great at LinkedIn so that you can devise some kind of paid strategy on that media? Should you be somewhere else? And so I'm not going to be executing on all of these. I can execute on some of them, but I'm probably maybe, too expensive for that. But then I can brief the people who can do that instead. Because then I can do the framework. I'll tell them exactly what needs to be done. And then they can just fill in the blanks.
So you're essentially like the
puppet master.
Exactly. I love how your brain works so fast as well.
The popcorn brain, pew, pew, pew. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's the ideal world. That's how I would love to work with all clients. Sometimes that doesn't happen. And sometimes you have to put out some fires and write some great copy or do something different. And sometimes it's a different kind of campaign. Sometimes I'm only employed in a thought leadership campaign, for instance, which is just one track of the communication strategy. It was for a really, really big corporation. So obviously I was not involved in the rest of it. Their positioning is great, so they don't need me there. They just need me for one branch or one arm of the strategy. And so I'll help with that. But it depends. But if it was a smaller, say an agency, something like that, or a tech startup, that would be ideal, definitely, instead of you having to pave the road as you drive on it.
As you were describing that process that you would take your clients through, I'm also sitting here thinking, okay, so like content creation, writing copy, branding, all these things, it's a very red ocean out there with a lot of competition. You know, I mean, we even get a lot of inbound emails each day like, oh, I do this and, you know, and similar things. What is something that you do that's uniquely Simone, that sets you apart from other people that you like when they're like, why do we hire you? And you're like, here it is.
I would probably say the storytelling aspect. And then, as I said, there's this overview, because a lot of people are really good. As you said, there's so many great copywriters. There are so many great content writers, but those are two very separate disciplines. And there are many that are great at, you know, influencer marketing, something different. But who's the one who has the helicopter perspective? You need someone who can create kind of this thread through all of this and weave it into the same, so you have the same storytelling across platforms. Because then, and only then, will people perceive your brand's DNA as what it really is, rather than giving 5 separate kinds of communicative efforts. So I think that's really what sets me apart, the helicopter perspective. But that also means that there's like the storytelling, because then how can you go into storytelling here? What does that mean for that? What does this mean for that? Right? Kind of like getting those jabs in there.
And how do you tie it all together?
Exactly.
Like that? And how
put it in a package with a nice ribbon on it.
Yeah.
Ding.
The red thread, as they say.
Exactly.
Right?
I was like, do they actually say that in English? The red thread? And I was just like, oh, the thread.
I was literally
the non-colored thread.
I was like literally in doubt when I was saying it. I'm like, I can't remember for the life of me if that's like a universal thing or if that's just something I've learned since I've been in Denmark.
Because it's very Danish. And then I was like, I'm just going to call it the thing.
And if you talk to us a little bit about storytelling, like how important is that? Like taking the goal, the product, the company, and packaging that into a digestible story that the avatar, the consumer, whoever it's going to be, to actually receive that and get that emotion, get that response, so that the company can actually give them the help that the customer desires. Like, how important is that?
Well, obviously, I think it's the most important part of any type of marketing activity, because I have to say that, right? Because it's what I do. But I do believe that we are nothing without the stories that we tell. Even just the stories that we tell about ourselves as people, that's the most important thing. What sets you apart? What sets you apart? We just talked about, when I said trauma, you both were like, oh, hey.
Hey, girl.
Yeah, exactly. Because we were like, that's relatable. That's what we talk about, right? It's what makes it relatable. And so what you said about packaging the product or the company into the storytelling, I don't think so. It's about taking the product and the company out of the storytelling, and then telling all of the stories around it, but don't really feature it. Or maybe that's what you meant when it's like the stories that go around the brand, but it's not necessarily about the brand. Is that what you meant?
Yeah. No, I think you actually called me out correctly the first time, because I had more of the mindset of, if I have this product,
Look at this
and I want to sell this product, then I need a good story.
Is
to
that
sell
valuable?
This product. I can perceive the answer as maybe not.
I mean, no, it wasn't a rhetorical question. Yeah. It's an open-ended question, because it depends. So if people want to see the new sneaker from Nike, show them the sneaker, right? That's probably smart. But if it's about a specific service, you're not going to tell them about the specific service. You have to show what it is, or maybe you have to do something different. A lot of people, they do, so in LinkedIn ads, for example, or other kinds of ad, they'll be like, look at this exciting product. Look at this exciting platform. Like, maybe we could use a different word. Is it because it's relevant? Is it because it's newsworthy? Is it because it's thrilling or innovative? Or maybe we shouldn't use these words to describe the product. Maybe we should just tell a story about the product instead.
I like that because like if I were to pull the best example I can from Mikkel and I, because we also have another company called Airflight where we make these big drones and all this stuff, right? And we've gone through a couple investment rounds in that process where we've gotten investors in to invest in the company. And when you're raising money, one of the very most important things that we would do is have the actual story of Mick and Trav. Like, who are we as the founders, and
Mick
why?
And Trav.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah, right. and like why? Because what the investors are really doing is they're investing in us.
Yes. So what's the story?
Yeah. So we have the background. Well, we've bonded deeply over we both have an elite sports background. So Mikkel, he's been doing mixed martial arts for almost a decade and a half now.
Yeah.
And from when I was 10 to 22, I was a competitive swimmer in the States, and that's how I paid for my college and things like that. So we both have done a sport at an elite level, and we have that determination, we have the perseverance, we know what
the stamina, the tenacity.
To go in every day and know it's going to suck, but do it anyways, and always keep doing it and never quit. And that's who we are.
I love the passion when you tell that story. You feel it as well, right?
Lifeguard, security guard.
Oh, you should open a nightclub, but in water.
Oh, now we're talking.
Don't do that. That would be hazardous. It's so bad.
Like the life ring with LEDs.
That would never get approved by the government here in
Little
Denmark.
like wings and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. Yeah.
It does remind me of a pool party I went to in Arizona once. Yeah.
I believe it. It. I tried something similar in Las Vegas.
Probably. Yeah. No, but that's a great story, and it tells a lot about you. As you said, all right, it's a security guard, it's a lifeguard. And I was like, all right, this is great for storytelling. Put that on the slide.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, and did you talk about drones at all?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. We did.
But that was
But not now.
No,
not yet.
No,
this was like.
So I was like, what do you do? And then what's the story? And then you talk about your background. And that's because then I'm like, oh, I don't care about the product. You could be selling cheese, like for all I care, Wisconsin boy. But it's a different product because it's not about that. The buy-in is you two. But then what do you create from a brand? Could you can you do some kind of storytelling from that? Do you use that stories in those stories in your brand as well, or like how do you use storytelling in Airflight?
I would say mostly in our fundraising journey we've used it. That's also something that we advise other founders to do, because in the end, sure, it's a tech product. It's exciting. Oh, that's another piece of software. Oh, okay.
It's another thing.
It's another thing, right? And that's why we really urge like founders to, why did you do it, right? And then you always find, oh, it's because I did this, and then I was like really struggling with this, and I just hated it, and then I quit my job, and then it becomes like
a story.
Exactly, that's what you're gonna say, not just like, here's the problem, here I made the solution, I need your money.
Yeah, look at this plastic thing that I made. It will solve some problems, right? No, because people don't buy into that. It's not personable. It's not relatable. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's just funny also because when you watch your body language, when you start telling the story that you really, especially yours, when you start doing that, I'm like, oh, right. I buy into that. I would buy that product, right? Because that's the passion that we want. We want to see that passion. Do you know the product Surreal? Surreal. It's a cereal brand.
Nope.
And they do the most crazy ads. You have seen. They are crazy with their marketing. But people remember them. I've never tried it. I don't want to get a new cereal product. I'm probably never going to try it. It doesn't really matter, but I know them. I know them so well, and I am a fan, and I want to work for them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what you want to do. You want to create something where you almost create a community, even for people who are not buyers, who are not customers. And that's just brilliant, because then they will tell their friends who might become customers at some point. That's what we talked about in the beginning, the community sense, right? When it's relatable, when you're building something memeable, relatable, personable, something like that. Yeah.
Can you start a business in 2024 without building a brand from your perspective?
Can you tear away a business from a brand? I don't think so. But it just depends. Some people have a business without a branding strategy, but their business is still a brand. But you have to treat it as such. But there are a lot of people who treat branding, but also communications and content as an afterthought. Because since most of us know how to talk and write, so people think that they're also good at it, right? Whereas, for example, something such as coding, developing, something like that, they know they're not good at because they can't do it. But because we all know how to read and write, we think that we can do it. But it doesn't mean that you can do it well. But then that just be like, oh, no, you don't have to fix this because I can do it myself. and then they serve shitty ads or shitty. I'm sorry, but that's really what I believe. But you could really, really lift it if you got someone to help you out on that with that part of your strategy.
What's the number one mistake that you see founders making in terms of their brand strategy right now?
Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know. I don't think I see any specific sort of trend, because there's also like this trend where people are more focused on community building. There is a more focus on giving back to employees, giving more flexibility and stuff. So I like that. But as we said, it's also about what does that get them? That they build a more flexible, positive brand, stuff like that. How does that reflect on them? On the one side, you also see a bunch of founders like Elon Musk stuff that become almost these like prodigal, mythical, legendary figures who are the brand. And then because if you don't, so I even worked for Tesla at some point. But now I really, really don't like what Elon Musk stands for. So I'm probably never going to buy a Tesla. Can you take away the brand from the person who owns the brand as well? And on the other hand, you have some founders who are more, standing in the background of the brand. I don't know. I'm not sure I have a great answer for you, except I'm seeing a lot of different things. And I see that a lot of people want to be this. They want to be the legend, the myth, the man that people look up to. But I think it's smart stepping into the background a little bit more and letting the brand breathe, have some breathing room so it can work for itself, and then creating this community. Also, if you have a great community, you know what you can get? You can get content for free. User-generated content is great. Testimonials, great. You can use this as part of your funnel. It's just, it's the best. Look, if you have an Instagram account and you have a big following, you can get people to do user-generated content. And then once you feature that stuff, I mean, people will want to be a part of your brand because of the community. And that's like, it just is, it's like self-circulating.
If somebody post something in favor of like my company, for example,
maybe using specific hashtag.
Yeah, or if I like repost that, then I'm starting to like get the ball rolling on that, because then maybe
people want to get featured because they also want part of the juice, right? They also want to be part of the limelight. And so if you give them a little bit of that, you're going to want like more people, then they'll share that with their friends and their family. And then your brand is talked about a lot more. Then you don't have to talk about your brand because other people are doing it for you. So it's about, getting it as much out. Obviously, it's also dangerous because then sometimes, it goes completely rogue and then you don't really own the brand anymore. And how can you then kind of rein it in if something goes wrong? But I would just say if you can get the brand out and living between in your customers and part of the community. Obviously, it's a little bit different, B2B and B2C. This is probably more B2C, where you get user-generated content. I don't really see how that could work in the same way with B2B. But then testimonials. If you have happy testimonials, that will work on your website. You barely have to do any content yourself because you get it from happy clients. Yeah. But that means that you have to have a great service to get the great testimonials.
That's true. When you said that thing with Tesla, I was just thinking, me and Travis, we're building up our personal brand, right, on various channels. And that's kind of our own story, right? But we also want to build the company's brand. How do you go about doing that in a smart way so that we don't end up our own personal brand is perhaps hurting the company brand and vice versa?
Do you think it's going to hurt the company brand? Are you planning on hurting your company brand?
You just gave a perfect example of Elon Musk hurting the brand because now you're not going to buy a Tesla anymore. So that's what sparked
probably. I also don't have money for it, but yeah. So it's a hypothetical scenario.
Shh. We're gonna cut that out.
I also don't like the guy who owns Lamborghini.
No, but you don't want a Lamborghini in Denmark because you can't get over the speed bumps.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. My thing would be like
you can get an SUV Lamborghini as well. That one can get over.
You could. Do you have to? I think I would use my money on something else if I had that to spare.
Like a great brand campaign.
I want an Aston Martin instead.
There we go.
If we're talking cars, DB9. Because it was designed by a Dane.
Oh, okay. That
cool.
one by Fisker.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome that you know that. That's some brand right there.
Well, I don't know. It's just because it's a little random trivia. I don't know a lot about cars, but probably a little bit more than the average person in my position. And so then I have a list of cars that I would really want, but that would also mean that I would have a really big garage, which would mean that I would need a really big house. Or probably just buy something else first. Yeah, because I don't have the money to spare.
Okay, let's just quickly go through top 5 of that list. I'm curious now. Is the Aston Martin? Is that the top one?
Yes, the DB9. I wouldn't mind a Vanquish either. Ferrari Dino.
Okay.
And then a Jaguar E-Type.
Going old school here.
And then an Austin Healey 3000. I like them rounded.
Yeah.
I don't know
like
what number.
Round curves.
Yeah, and then I would probably, something for like more of like a family vehicle at the end as number 5, but I don't know what that
and would be. And a minivan.
Yes, a minivan.
No, definitely there you got to go for an Audi RS6 or something like that. Like
That would be
wagon.
that would be great. Yeah, something like that. Put that in there.
Mom, please don't push the throttle again. Don't worry. Fasten your seatbelt, kids.
Vroom, vroom, we're going shopping.
Exactly.
But what you said about hurting the brand.
Exactly, back to that.
But it depends, because if you're using it, if you're using your personal stories or your brands as part of your funding strategy, then it might be hard to differentiate, right? Do you want yourself to be part of the story of the company?
Yeah.
Or do you want to take yourselves out of it completely? What's the plan?
I would say take ourselves out with time.
But you want to use it to begin with to build the brand.
I think
you want to use your personal brands to build up the company brand, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then take it out.
Divorce a little bit later on, because if the brand, like if
it might be hard.
If Elon Musk, if he sold all of his shares of Tesla, and
he will still be Tesla. He'll still be the Tesla guy.
Yeah,
that's basic, guys.
Exactly. Or then Tesla doesn't have his brand anymore. And at this point, it's like you said, it's at a total other level. But here it's like, if we are the brand, then we can't sell our company.
No, or if something happens, if you two are not best buddies anymore, and one of you divorces the brand, at the pool party, at the pool party, someone drowns. I wouldn't advise on your personal brands becoming the company brand. But on the other hand, if you do have strong personal brands, why not use that? But it depends. It depends on what's part of your strategy. What are you doing right now? Like what are you doing on your page? What's working well? What's not working well? So who buys your product?
In Airflight, it would be B2B. So that is much more formal.
Okay, so then probably your personal brands don't have anything to do with that. Not the same. Do you use sponsors, influencers, people who can anything that can put in?
No, we don't use any of that. But I think, even though it is B2B, it is in a very small ecosystem of like before we were making the big drones. Now we're making like a new hardware payload system that goes under the drone. So the amount of companies in the world also making big drones that we can sell this new product to, it's very small. And when we're putting our content out every day, they know who we are, and it's kind of like we're becoming those people that they can know, like, and trust. And then,
so you're experts. So actually, you're establishing yourselves as thought leaders on a very niche market. That's smart. So you're because the thing is, if you can become the go-to resource for something very niche, then it's very hard for someone else to compete with that or to take over that platform from you. But then you're probably always going to be associated with that niche area. So are you prepared to do that? Are you prepared to be the drone guys?
Oh, we're already the drone guys.
Okay.
because of the big drone. We're the guys who crashed that big drone.
Okay.
Yeah, at this moment. But we're still alive, and that's the most important thing.
Hey, Mick and Trav here. We're not only podcast hosts, we are also entrepreneurs who've raised millions of dollars for our own company.
That's right, and now we're helping founders like you do the same. If you want to work with us, DM us the word podcast on Instagram, which you can find in the description below. That's the word podcast. Like, what would it take if I didn't really have a personal brand at all? I've had Facebook since when it came out. I have an Instagram. I posted a couple times, but just whatever. And now I'm thinking, you know what? I would actually like to grow my personal brand because I aspire to do something with it someday. Like, what are some key elements to have in mind to start? Let's say I just want to start posting a couple of times a week consistently. Like, what should I have in mind if I want to start that journey?
Fail quickly. Yeah, because if you don't get started, you're not going to have anything to learn from. So I hear one of the big problems that I hear people saying when they want to grow their personal brand on LinkedIn, for instance, is that, but I don't have any ideas, or like it feels super cringy. But we have to remember, like, people don't care. Like, I don't remember what you posted a week ago or yesterday. So if you posted something that was super cringy, I don't know. I'm not going to remember it because I'm only aware of my own content, right? Because we are narcissists at heart, all of us. And so we worry a lot about what we all look like to, our surroundings, but they don't really care. So just post something, try it out. And as we talked about, it's about giving value. And people be like, oh, but where do I find the ideas? I'm like, there are ideas everywhere. Like, so, and it's not just about, oh, I went into a podcast, let me see the selfie. Like, but what did I actually learn from having this conversation with you? Well, you do MMA and you're Michael Phelps 2.0, right? so what does that mean? Because I really love that there's like the athlete part of that. What does that tell me about you? That means that you're very tenacious people. That means that this podcast is going to come out and it's probably going to be something that you're going to be really pushing for. I love that. Now I know this about you. Right? So that's something else that I'm going to take away from this. Are there other lessons that I can take away from it? Did I learn something? So I even try when I have chronic migraines. I have like 25 days of migraine a month.
Oh my God.
It's not ideal. It's not great.
Do you have a migraine right now?
Yes.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
But I have migraines and cluster headaches.
And we're saying put on headphones and we'll speak into a microphone.
I'm used to it at this point. It's really bad. And I get like a very specific type of medication. I have to inject myself with medication every once a month. And it kind of takes the intensity and the frequency a little bit down. But still, that's very, very bad. I also have cluster headaches and they're even worse. But it's something that I've learned from. I was like, at some point, I was like, do I give up? Do I, just get benefits from the government and then not do anything with it? Or do I use this to push myself even further? That's not for everyone. I'm not saying that everyone can do it, but that's what it took for me to keep going. So I use this as fuel. I use it as my drive to push for something. I use it as lessons that I can maybe teach. Maybe I can be the reflection that I was missing earlier on when I got my whiplash and my concussion that caused my chronic migraines, because I was missing someone to look up to that gave me a positive spin on this, or that gave me even the bad days and took away the learnings and served that to me. I want to do that, but that's content material. And I know it sounds almost cynical where it's like, well, what's content? This is content, that's content. But literally everything is content, inspiration, if you think about it. And we have so much to share just inherently about who we are, where we grew up, where we come from, being an expat, being in love with a Dane, or like being into like being like you like cars. Like there's something in all of this that might be worth sharing, because somewhere out there, someone else would like to look at that.
Yeah. Get hope.
Yeah. And so what if I was building a personal brand from scratch, I would also advise people that they think in content pillars. Think about 2 or 3 pillars that you want to talk about, and then have like a split. So one is about maybe the service that you sell. One is about something else in your life. And then the last like 20% is maybe more personal content, right? So you kind of know this is what I'm talking about at all times. And then you also know how to structure your content. So if I'm posting 3 times a week, then one of the posts should be about this, one should be about this, and this should be about that. All right, then I have to look at inspiration for the specific post, and then I can structure it, then repurpose. And 1 point per post, 1 message per post. A lot of people be like, oh, these are like the 5 things I want people. I'm like, people don't scroll that far. It has to be skimmable. It has to be stoppable, like a stoppable moment. Great hook, something visual. Give people something that will, that's interesting to read, that's thought provocative, something that's, I know not everything is extraordinary, but try to be something. Try to be inspirational, or try to be valuable, or try to share your experience. Try to do something with it rather than just writing for the sake of writing. If you don't have any inspiration that day, don't post.
When you just shared that with the migraine, I've checked out your profile, and I know that you're also a mom.
Yeah.
But you're also an entrepreneur. And you also have migraines and headache clusters.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep a positive mindset throughout that? Like, how have you done that? For someone sitting out there right now that just thinks life is about, it just fucking sucks right now because of whatever. How have you kind of gotten yourself above water?
First of all, I have a great support system. I have a family that helps me out and who believes in me. The worst thing is somebody not believing your pain. I have a husband who supports me and who believes in me no matter what, and who will help me out if I feel like I'm failing. He's my eternal cheerleader. And that's so important. But everyone has one cheerleader somewhere. Or like, write me, I'll be your cheerleader. I promise. Because everybody deserves someone who can lift them up. So that's one thing, have like a supportive network, but then also be open. You're going to be surprised at how many people are in the same boat. Do you suffer from any type of chronic illness, any of you guys? Do you have any sports injuries or something?
No, I've actually been pretty lucky with that. But my girlfriend does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she knows kind of maybe what that's like, and it's a perpetual kind of pain thing. And I'm also, my husband calls me a robot, so I do have like a different kind of mindset. I'm extremely passionate and I'm very, very driven as a person, but it also cost me a lot. But I've just felt like I think something clicked in me in maybe 2017. I was like, because I was still working like a corporate job, and a lot of these places were like, we don't want to hear about your migraines. Like, we shouldn't be talking about this. So you either have to be healthy in people's eyes, or you have to be sick. Like 100% one or the other. But in reality, all of us like live in kind of a gray area.
Yeah, it's not black and white.
And so I took it upon myself to like talk about that gray area. And it's just opened up for this community of other people who feel the same way, even on LinkedIn. And so some people will be like, oh, I could never talk about this. But it's like, you would be surprised.
Yeah.
So it's about being open as well. Nothing bad is going to happen, I think, at least not in Denmark, if you're going to be open about what you struggle with. I think what you're going to find is that you have a bigger community than you think you have.
Yeah.
I think definitely that, because I'm not going to be like, oh, well, tomorrow is going to be better. No, tomorrow might suck even more. But it's about finding something that gives you willpower, right? And in the beginning for me, it was also like, I'm not going to let this tear me down.
Did you hit a turning point of that? Was there a point where like, because did you go through a process of like kind of feeling defeated, and then there was some turning point where you're like, you know what, enough is enough, and
fuck this shit?
Yeah, there was actually, because I was feeling very down and I was definitely super depressed, and I was like, I don't want to finish my studies, I don't want to do anything about it. But then it got worse, and I actually got the diagnosis cluster headaches, which is a lot worse than migraines, if you can believe it. On like a pain scale, it should be worse than like childbirth, apparently.
Oh my God.
So your birth, that was easy peasy for you?
I had a C-section, so I actually don't know.
Okay.
I was like kind of like, oh, damn it, man. I wish I could have known if it was actually true.
Yeah.
And then later on, in 2019, I had...
On to the next one.
Yeah. No, but I was like, I've been super unlucky. I've been hit by a couple of cars. I've had surgery on my shoulders 4 times. I've been super, super unlucky. And it was just on like this downward spiral. Like, what am I going to do with my life? I can't continue doing this. But then it just got worse and worse. And I was like, what? But I'm still living, right? I'm still getting up in the morning. I must be some kind of superhuman if I can keep doing this, because you're doing it without the same kind of disabilities, and you're doing it without the same kind of disability, but I'm doing the same.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, for me, right? That's the feeling that I had. And then I had surgery in 2019, and something went wrong, and they kind of hit a nerve. And so my right arm was dead for a while, and they were like, maybe you have to give up your right arm. And I was like, could I live with only one arm? And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I could. I would be the fucking coolest one-armed woman. I promise you. I was like, from then on, I was like, if I can live with the notion, then it obviously got back. It's here. It's not like robotic or anything. But it was such a mindset shift, because I was like, if I can accept this pain, I'm never going to like not strive for something better. I'm never going to not be like pursuing, are there better types of medication, something better out there for me? I'm never going to stop doing that. But if I can be like, I can live like this, I can live with the worst of the worst, then I can also live with like not having any clients, or like going through this shit, or going through other kinds of shit. And it's like, we all have those moments. They can be big, they can be small, but all of us have overcome some kind of trauma, some kind of obstacle. And I'm like, use it, or at least do it in spite of, right? Even if you're just being angry, you're still going forward. Use it. Use something as fuel. I'm not against anger. I'm not against like using anything, because at some point you can turn it around. But also just be open and share what you go through. Because again, when we talked about, let's do a little nice segue into branding. Because like if you share something about yourself, you're gonna find that there's a bigger community than you think. The same goes with branding.
And in terms of like when you share yourself, I think a lot of people have a lot of fear for hate, which there is a lot on the internet. But I think the hate will always be there.
Not as much as I thought there would be.
But what you really get when you start sharing the vulnerable side of yourself is you don't understand that maybe someone hates on you, but you got like 10 new warriors that will stand on the battlefield with you and tear those haters down.
Yeah.
And I think that's really something for people who is like afraid of posting and what if people hate me? Listen.
What if they like you?
Yeah. Exactly. What if they love you?
What if they love you? Because every time I post something about being a mom, being an entrepreneur and being a mom with migraines, or like just my life, my struggles with migraines on like an almost daily basis, people will give me a lot of sympathy likes and it's going to get a great reach, but that's not why. It's because of the stuff that happens in my inbox. They're not clients, not at all. They're people who said, oh my God, I'm going through the exact same thing. How did you battle this? How did you manage that? And then we can have a conversation. And then hopefully they feel a little better because they saw that most of them be like, I didn't know that you could also have a business. Or I didn't know. And I know that not everyone can do this. But if I can do it, someone else can also do it. Yeah. I'm not the only one who can do it. And I think that's important, like sharing that. Because then I usually get a lot of love if I share that from people who are in the same boat, or even surprise from people who are like, well, my daughter is going through something similar and this opened my eyes. And I'm like, bingo. That's why I do it.
I think that's so great. And just about attracting that tribe, kind of as you were talking about, and that fear, that initial fear that you mentioned, Mick, as well. Like, I was talking to one of my good friends the other day, and this guy, he's like world class in his field. And he wants to get into building his personal brand. And I've been doing it for like a whole 3 months. So I was trying to give him my expert advice, but like, one of his biggest fears too was getting that kind of like rejection feeling from the people who already follow you, which are like, your friends from high school or whatever, from the hometown, that kind of thing. And who would be like, so like, what's the social media thing you're doing? Like, who do you think you are? Type of a thing. And my thought there is sort of like, yeah, but like, I just expect to lose them. Because why should Tim from my high school care about my drone company?
Like,
he doesn't get value from that, of course. And if you actually commit to something and start getting any kind of success, people who aren't going for that sometimes have a tendency to try to bring you down from that, but that doesn't last very long. I got a thought in my head in that moment talking to him and just put like a dot on a whiteboard and like that's the people you know now and who follow you now, and the rest of the whiteboard, that's like the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And that's who you want to talk to, not this teeny tiny, like the 200 followers you have now. Yeah. Like that doesn't matter.
It's important to note that there should be a separation, because to begin with, when you want to try to grow your personal brand, what's the KPIs that you want to look into? Like what are the results you're looking for? Are you looking for leads? Because then I should probably change my communications and not talk about migraines all of the time, right? Yeah. Well, it tells people who I am to work with. It also tells people that I'm super tenacious. If I can get up every morning with a migraine and still get shit done, that means that I can do something, right? That means that I can get shit. Like, it's just, that's an important notion, but it doesn't really talk about what I'm good at. Maybe I'm trying to use it for like storytelling techniques, and am I good at writing and stuff? So I implement that, but maybe that's not for getting the leads that I want. I should probably, dim down the personal stories and talk more about what kind of services I offer. So it's all about, what are you trying to do with the personal brand? Is it leads? Is it reach? Is it followers? Is it building a community? Do you want to be the reflection that you were missing yourself earlier on? What do you want to do with it? And I was like, I want to have a platform where I can speak openly about these issues, because I have been missing that. I've been missing someone who would talk about this in the same way. So I want to be the person that I was missing. That's what I want to do with it. I obviously also want leads, but I wanted to tell people what kind of person I am. That's like my primary goal. But if you want to sell a service, then maybe you should go about it in a different way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And like, I really like that, the way that you say, like, being the person that you've been missing in your journey. And I've also seen a lot of content saying that, like, most of us, like who we are today, like we're the adult that like our inner child needed when we were like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Like that's who we are now, the person that little kid needed. And just by posting authentic things about your life, you're kind of by default being that person who you didn't have in some way.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, hopefully it could also go the other way, but yeah, I hopefully I'm trying to be that.
Not a blank check.
Yeah.
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 It's funny that you say that we have this card game that we sometimes play when we're with friends where you get all these questions, right? And I got asked, what do you want your tombstone to say, right? And there I think I was like, it should say, thank you for showing us what was possible. That is essentially also for hopefully my future kids, is just to keep shining that light. And I just think sitting across you when you're having a migraine right now and we're having fun and stuff like that, I just have the biggest respect and I'm so impressed because right now you're shining a big light for a lot of people. Because I think there's a lot of people out there who are struggling with social media, with thinking all the time that my life needs to be perfect. I
Mental
need this,
stability,
this.
yeah.
And when you show that it's possible the way you do it, I think there's a lot of people who can relate to that. So I just want to say
and they can do it
thank
their
you.
way. Thank you so
Exactly.
much. That really, it means it was like it's very touching because it's exactly what I try to do. But I'm not trying to show anyone that you have to do it a specific way, but that you can find a way and you can find your way. I don't have like a recipe for success, and I mean, gods know that I also struggle with. You know, I have my own. Not just my physical health issues, but also the anxiety that I have. It makes it really hard to be an entrepreneur at times. I'm like, I just want to, every once in a while, my husband has to tell me, things go up and down in showbiz, and I'm like, but I wanted to just, it has to be.
I don't like the downs.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm like, that's because no one likes me, and then it's probably because I wrote this thing, and then it's just, I'm just devaluing all of the work that I did. So I'm no stranger to that kind of insecurity at all. I'm just trying to tell you that there is a way and you can make it your way.
Yeah.
And that's also why I quit to be then when you say entrepreneur, I'm like, I'm not an entrepreneur.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like a business owner. It's not the same.
I just started and owned my own business.
yeah, but it's like entrepreneur means like that's the spirit. That's the tech bros. They do the entrepreneurial stuff, or they come up with a product. And I'm like, I'm just writing.
That's what I used to think.
Yeah, but I'm like, when you said it as well, I was like, I kind of, maybe we could just like cross it out because that's not true. That's incorrect. But then you keep saying it, and I'm like, maybe I should own it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
100.
Yeah.
But it's like,
100%.
I'm a business owner. I just have a business, right?
Yeah.
It's not the same.
I mean, think about it like this. If something went wrong in your business, who's responsible for it?
Well, I am, obviously.
Entrepreneur.
Like,
it's pretty simple.
What's the line between, because then do you have to be some kind of innovator if you're an entrepreneur?
Every business owner is an innovator. Otherwise, you wouldn't own the business.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Yeah.
It comes down to it. You can't have a business and not be innovative, because that's one
Finding
of the things
new ways of succeeding.
with capitalism is, the free market kind of decides, and if you suck, it will tell you.
Yeah.
Because now you're broke, and
there's
now
no
you're
demand.
not a business owner anymore. Bye bye.
Yeah.
So I think it's completely natural, and I mean, you can call it entrepreneur, innovator, rebel. Like,
Interesting.
The
yeah.
person has many names, but I think entrepreneur just comes down to, or at least for me, it just comes down to a person who is essentially going for something. I think as soon as you
Betting
become a
on
parent,
yourself.
you become an entrepreneur.
The
business is
time
just-
management, the project management skills, I got him.
Communication.
Yeah, and that's what also when we just back to what I said
But
in the
you
beginning
can't
was like
fire anyone.
I became a business owner or an entrepreneur because I became a mom, and I was like, I can't take care of my health the way that I want to, and also be the parent that I want to if I don't do something completely different. Because I was in a senior position at a fintech, and I was like, I am working more hours than you do in just a regular job, just make the ends meet and stuff. And it was good, and I was doing great, and it was well paid and stuff. But I was like, I need a different life because it's a sinking ship, this thing, and I have been neglecting my health and my body for so long. I had not been working out for more than 10 years, and I was like, maybe if I started working out and actually did something good for myself, if I took myself out of that like equation of like going to work 9 to 5, doing all that stuff, maybe I would give myself room to, find out what works for my migraines or what works for my health function. And it's been amazing. So even though on paper I've never felt worse, I've never felt better mentally. Because now I started working out, I started lifting heavy weights, and I was like,
There you go.
I love this. I love this. Now you start seeing out my arms. I'm like, but also I can lift stuff. I can lift my daughter without it being a problem. I can walk faster. I can walk longer. I can do more stuff. And that's worth the whole thing. But I would not be able to do that if I was in a regular corporate job. That's why I had to do it, because now I can be the business owner that I want to, and I can be the mom that I want to, and I can still have the migraines. But they won't bother me as much because I'm feeling bad. I'll just be like, I'm going to go lie down for an hour, and then I'm going to go back to work. Or I usually work in the mornings and in the evenings. But in the middle of the day where I feel the most down, that's not where I'm going to apply my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has the training in any way helped with the migraines or the headaches?
Indirectly. As I said, I don't think I can see a pattern in terms of frequency and intensity, but I definitely feel better. Now that I'm seeing that I am stronger, it feels like, also just because, this might sound silly, but it's a way of reclaiming my body. So when my body has been doing things to me that I am not, the owner of, that I don't feel like it was my choice, but this is my choice. I can choose that I want to, feel the pain and the burn from working out with heavy weights. And that's a better kind of pain than the migraines. So I am choosing what kind of pain I want. And then the rest can just be, it's give that the middle finger, right?
But it's so funny that you say that, because I don't think it's always true, or at least I've learned that on myself. But if you put yourself through self-inflicted stress, you can just handle a lot more.
But that's what I said with the surgery and the thing where I was like, well, now that I've gone through this, what does that tell me about myself, what I can go through next? I'm going to be able to handle so much because of this. I know that I can go through this kind of pain, this kind of struggle. It means the rest should be piece of cake, right? And the same, all right, but if I can go through so many surgeries and being hurt in this many kind of ways that I did not choose, then I can take one more rep.
Yeah.
I'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it's a mind game, and I'm getting better at it. And it's not that I'm super disciplined, but it's just changing the way that I view myself. I see myself as more capable now than I used to.
I was teaching these women self-defense, and I told them, like, every time that I stand in front of the mirror in the morning, I say to myself, I'm smart, I'm strong, and
You're
I'm
beautiful.
capable.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I just
for
say I'm
my
beautiful
spouse, I
3
hope.
times. So.
Yeah. But that's what I tell my daughter. You are your own. You are loved, and you're beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, man, I wish I told myself that, right? Because we have these. It's a struggle. Also, maybe as a woman, I don't know about you guys. When I saw myself in the mirror earlier, be like, you still have to lose 5 kilos. Like always, even when I was at my slimmest, right? So it's that thing of like constant like changing your mindset. But I'm getting better. Be like, well, you're strong now.
Yeah.
You are strong. You are doing well, right? And you did that today, or you did that. You have your own business. Like, so it's more of like that pride I can instill in myself, and I'm getting better at that. Maybe that also comes with age and maturity. And something happened when I had my daughter. I'm like, I don't have time for other people's bullshit.
Yeah.
I want to do more of the stuff that makes me happy. I want to have positive interactions. I want people to remember me for positive stuff rather than negative stuff. I hope that by being near people, will create some memorable moments. So leave them like, this was good. I will take that home with me. That's what I want to do, because that's where I want to be for my daughter. And if people suck out my energy, I'm not going to waste time on them.
Yeah.
Because I just want her to look up to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's also a big like mindset shift.
That's definitely something for entrepreneurs out there. If entrepreneurship is hard, and you don't need more people draining you, and you should start in your life to really be prioritized around who you spend time with, because you need people who uplifts you.
I think so. And then we can create more of the communities where we're uplifting, and then we can shun the haters into non-existence because they don't deserve that space, right? But yeah. So be the positive change that you want to see in the world, something like that.
Yeah. Earlier, you asked yourself a really good question, which is, what do you want written on your tombstone? I'm curious what your response might be to that.
That's actually funny because when you said what you said, yours is, you said, thank you for showing us what was possible. So that's actually them writing on your tombstone.
Yeah. It says, what would you leave behind so that you know what would be on your tombstone? Something like that. Yeah. So that's the change that I want to reflect, so that's what they will write on my tombstone. Because I can of course like say to people now, write this on my tombstone. But
that's
I think that's kind of like narcissistic.
But it's also kind of narcissistic to say, what do I want other people to write on my tombstone?
That's true.
So I was like, maybe we should flip it.
You just busted my narcissism.
Hey, we're holding the same.
I don't know. I was just sitting here. I was like, oh shit.
It was just a reflection of the words and what do they actually mean and who's writing what and saying what. So maybe we could flip it around. If you were to write something on your own tombstone, what would that be? Thanks for letting me share what I had.
It would be the same.
It would be the same.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you said that thing with working out with like weights, the same goes for when you're fighting. Is you find out a lot about yourself when you really self-inflict yourself with pressure. Because I think that's what competitive fighting or lifting heavy weights, it's essentially just putting a lot of pressure on yourself until you almost break and then pulling back. And sometimes you're stupid and you break. But but putting that pressure on yourself helps you like expand. And I have like, back to trauma, right? That 14-year-old kid, I have something to prove to him. And that is, I'm going to show you what's possible.
And when you break, you can put yourself back together again.
Exactly.
Well, maybe you're going to need the help of medical professionals. But, to a certain extent, you can put yourself back together. Yeah. That's what it's all about. Better, bigger, greater in some way. So when you say the tombstone, I actually don't want a tombstone. I really don't care. That's not for me to decide. If someone wants to hand me a tombstone, put that on there. I don't really care. I'm not part of the Danish church either. It doesn't really matter to me. I want people, if they remember me, I want them hopefully to be inspired, and I want them to hopefully remember that, there is a light side to hardships.
Travis actually have a crazy idea that he brought up to me that I think is brilliant.
I was just going to say that.
And you have to explain this idea about what could be the next thing that we do when we die.
Okay.
Over to you, Travis.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is just a total left turn in the conversation, I suppose. But because we were talking about that one day, like, what do you want to happen with you when you die? Like, do you want to be buried or cremated or whatever, right? And I was like, man, like, none of that really sounds good to me. Because like getting embalmed and buried and stuff like that seems selfish, because then you're just like in a concrete box and don't give back to nature. And then I remember seeing this company where you could be put in this pod. And
the pod.
Buried,
and you get it like a tree.
And then a tree grows.
Yeah.
And then I took that one step further because my girlfriend, she's a fantasy author actually. And I was like, Julia, what you need is you got to do that. And then we're going to cut that tree down and print your first book on you, like turn it into a book.
How early do you think you're going to die for the tree to grow and sprout and your girlfriend still be with us to write the stories on?
It goes down in generations.
No, it's because...
Yeah, okay.
It would just be like,
in
so
memoriam.
Instead of having a tombstone, you have like a book that's made out of
fantasy
a tree
novel.
That's made out of you.
Or actually, it's a journey, right?
Yeah,
because first the tree grows, so everybody could go to the tree as the tombstone, the natural bio-tombstone.
Yeah.
Then you cut it down, and now you make books out of it.
Do you see what this is? This is storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. You pass it down, and then it's like, oh, the grandpa was the tree. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And one other piece of the storytelling that we did in our fundraising too, like now that you talked about martial arts again, is like when people would ask any kind of question about hard times or giving up or something, and sometimes we just put it straight into the front of the pitch. We'd be like, yeah, we know in entrepreneurship you get knocked down a lot. And this guy, he knows exactly what it's like to literally get kicked in the face and get back up and keep going,
And then just show him get kicked in the face. Yeah. It would make a great commercial.
It doesn't get better than that, right? So.
Just show him like a bloody nose. Yeah. Everything's an opportunity to create content.
Create content.
Simone, one thing I've noticed about you is you just have like a spectacular sense of humor. You're such a clever and funny person.
Oh my God, you guys with the compliments.
Yeah, but I've just had like, this has been so much fun. I like to have a fun time too. I like to make jokes. I like to incorporate a bit of humor into stuff I put out there. And in the beginning, there was, and also now, there's been a lot of, fine line between like how far do you take it, and in what context do you take it, how far, and all of this, and like, because I really want the point to hit, but I don't want it to be so funny that the point doesn't hit, and things like that. You must also have something similar. Do you have like a filtration system, or how
Yes.
do you? Yes. Okay. Please talk about that.
For instance, on my Instagram, I will share something that I know is instantly recognizable or understandable by a large group of people. But then I also have very close friends that I send extra spicy memes to on Instagram.
Is that in the
Extra
private
spicy.
function?
That's the private function. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they get the extra spicy memes where I'm like, I don't want my mom to see those. Or I don't want to know the lady who's 72 from North Carolina who follows me. Shout out to Holly. Who like, because she won't like those memes either, but she's so cute and asks me if she doesn't understand a meme, and I'll be like explaining that this is why it's funny and stuff. She doesn't have to see those memes either. Yeah. But it's for a select few people who can get into that group, and I'll show them the extra just so I don't offend anybody. And I also know that what I put in my own feed, I also curate. I want to do something that doesn't take away from, say, my professional attire in a sense, because I don't want to come off as just like a silly goose at all times. Yeah. Or I don't, as you said, offensive and stuff. And so it's more light, perhaps. And the same on Instagram. I do want to poke fun at people. I do want to make some jabs at marketeers that maybe I don't believe that they're doing what they should be doing, or companies, but not in a way that I alienate potential clients completely. So that's the thing with content. When you create something, there is the risk of alienating someone when you create something. So you have to be aware of who you're alienating and why, because there might be a good reason for alienating some, because your product is not for them, or you're so far down the funnel that you should segment those people away from it. But yeah, no, I also segment all of my stuff. I'm very, very aware of the tonality that I have on different platforms. So how I write on LinkedIn is not how I write on Instagram. And Instagram, it's way more personable. It's way more like funny, concise. And I used to do Medium articles about having migraines, and they're more, well, not darker, but they're more like teary-eyed, and they're like the harder stories. But I've also evolved. Funny. Yeah, less funny. But I've also evolved. So now I want to include humor in everything that I do if I can, because that's my personal and unique tone of voice. Yeah. But if you ask me again in 5 years, maybe I'm not funny at all. We'll see.
Probably humor just...
Stay tuned.
Yeah, humor just never gets old.
The more that I exercise the humor and the more that I speak to people, maybe it's also because I'm finding the tribe that we talked about before. I'm finding more people who find what I find funny. They also find that funny. So maybe it's just because I'm finding more people of the same herd or the same flock mentality, and we just group together and we just find each other hilarious. Maybe that's it. Maybe I just wasn't around people who understood my humor before. I don't know how that happens, because I feel like as we grow older, we also find out the niche that we're in or the tribe that we want to be a part of more and more.
I would like to get an invite for that, the special friends
the
group.
Spicy memes.
I was just going to say, Mikkel and I, we need an invite to the spicy group.
Oh, we'll see if you're ready for it.
Okay.
Yeah, see if we can.
Yeah, you have to have like the tester meme, like see if.
But maybe I'm just afraid that if I let people in and they see someone, they're like, "Girl, you should not be making fun with this." Or it's just. I don't know. It's just they're really not super offensive. It's just a different kind of meme. Sometimes they're a little bit darker, where it's like you have to understand that I'm not like about to jump off a bridge, but you're still going to see this meme.
What is who are your favorite comedians?
Eliza Schlesinger, I like, because she blends politics with humor, and she's getting better and better at it. So she's like crash the patriarchy, but in a really fun way. And she does like these fun she has a lot of like body language things, like. She does like these. It's just, and it's great on stage. That's probably my fave. But I actually don't watch a lot of comedy for some reason. Maybe it's because every time I watch a comedy show, I'm like, I want to do that, and I'm like, no, you stay on the content thing. Yeah. That's what you're doing right now. Yeah. And so that's possibly it. Yeah, exactly.
Plus, it's like 10 times funnier when it's live as well, and there's like 100 other people laughing in the room versus watching it in your own living room or something.
Also that, yeah. And sometimes I'll be like to my husband, "I watch this." It's like, oh, and she does it, and he's like, "That's not," because he's just a different generation, maybe. But it's like sometimes I'm like,
you don't get it.
It's so funny, and then sometimes he'll send me something, and I'm like, no, that doesn't work. That does not.
Yeah. Some humor doesn't age very well.
Yeah, that's true. And if you watch Entourage from 2008, did you watch that show when it came out? And it was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. Or Californication.
Exactly.
Oh, man. David Duchovny was like so funny. But if you watch it now, you're like, oh, that did not age well.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Mila and I just watched an Eddie Murphy stand-up not too long ago, and we were just kind of like, ooh, cringe. Like the guy's a comedy genius, but like the stuff from there doesn't work today, like for sure.
Yeah, and you're like, should I still laugh, or is that just super inappropriate? Yeah, but no, some stuff just did not age well. That's good. We move on, and the same with just as we mature and we develop into different kinds of characters, so does humor, and also just on a global plane. I think there's a lot of, also because people are more gender non-conforming, and it's not as heteronormative as it was, at least not in our part of the world, and that just leads into different kinds of comedy. And I think that if you're open to that, you're susceptible to different kinds of comedy. You're just gonna have more fun.
More diversity.
Yeah.
I can also ask for your personal life now too, because I know you have some challenges there, but also in your career, when you have moments where you hit a wall or you hit a setback or you hit some kind of a challenge and it like sort of stops you in your tracks, what do you do to get past that?
I cry. No, but I'm serious. I might, because sometimes I do get like the panic things. It just depends. I think maybe it's also a hormonal thing, but sometimes you're stuck in a rut and you just have to wait for that day to be over. But I try to remind myself, because also when you have the successful moments, you're like, I'm a boss bitch. Like I can do this, and just remember that feeling. But I feel like as an entrepreneur, if you've also tried the corporate life, the lows are the same kind of lows as they were in my corporate life, but the highs are so much higher.
Yeah.
And so I try to recall the time that I felt the worst in my corporate life, and then I'm like, but I'm still on my own. Yeah. I'm still doing this for the sake of my child, for the sake of my health. And I'm like, okay, but then I can probably live another day to do this.
Yeah.
So yeah. Because, I've also seen a bunch of different workplaces, and some of them great and some of them not so great. And sometimes if you just remind yourself of what you're maybe not missing, that will fuel you, propel you forward.
Restack the perspective.
Yeah, just a little bit. Or maybe go and work out. That also works.
That's always a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah, that usually works.
Turn that emotional pain into
into
physical
dopamine.
pain.
Yeah. Or talk to your cheerleaders. Talk to your supporters. If you have, just like I have my husband, I'll be like, I'll whine to him. I will seriously whine and maybe even cry a couple of tears. And he'll be like, but you'll make it. Because you did the last time. And you've done so all the time I've been with you. We've been together for almost like 9 years, I think. So it's like, he knows. And he knows that every time I'm like, it's still gonna be fine. He's like, I've just seen you go this on an upwards trajectory, so you're just gonna do better every time. And so talk to the people who support you and you surround yourself with who have a positive impact on your life. Or maybe share your struggles. Everything is an opportunity for content.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, if you share your struggles, you're going to find out, well, last time I had a similar kind of struggle or obstacle in my life, what I did was this. Yeah. And if I'm completely panicked out, I use the box breathing method. Do you know that one?
Like 4 in, 4 out, or
it's like so it's like 4 in, and then hold it for 4.
And
then out for 4.
Yeah.
And then hold it for 4.
Yeah.
Box. Yeah. Just like that. And that usually helps get me back to earth again if I'm completely out there.
Yeah.
That's a good quick tip. I think you can do that anytime, anywhere, in any situation, essentially.
Yeah. It's just about being more connected with what's around you if you're completely panicked out. But that's like the last resort, then do the breathing exercises.
That's solid advice.
Yeah.
We have a tradition on the podcast, and that is that you need the thought-provoking question here at the end.
From the cookie jar?
From the cookie jar. Which actually says the creative pursuit of a greater self.
Could be the creative cookie jar. Yeah.
The creative cookie jar.
And Travis, you'll get it.
The pursuit of. It's funny. I actually have a Greek word tattooed on my ribs. It's called arete. It's the pursuit of excellence. It's not the pursuit of perfection, but it's being the best you that you can be.
I love that.
It's like the virtue of all virtues. It's a thing because it's like you cannot be perfect, but you have to find a way to be better at all times, and you have to find the best version of yourself to be for others. That's not, that's not being something completely delusional, but what's the best version of you or me that we can be? Yeah, that's what I strive for.
Because your best version, it's gonna come with flaws automatically.
Yeah, but tomorrow is gonna be better because you learn from it.
We like that just 1% better every day.
Yeah, the atomic habits thing. Yeah.
And like speaking of Greek words and stuff, I was also like, I don't know if it's a serendipitous or what, but if you see the headphones, they're actually saying EPOS right on them. So
oh really?
Yeah. So there you go. Like your goal of being on a podcast this year, and we got the EPOS headset. So there it is.
Wow, what a coincidence!
On that
I love that.
Thought-provoking question of the podcast: what is one thing people don't know about you?
I can sound like Pikachu.
I dare you to prove it.
No, yeah. Now I'm like, but maybe I'm going to ruin it now.
Pikachu. Pika pika.
Okay, that was pretty impressive.
Well, Mama always said to me, you need something to fall back on, and I think you have something there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm just going to be a Pikachu impersonator.
Yeah.
That's great. Great. I'm going to change career tracks right now. You think there's money in it?
It would have made me so happy if you had like a yellow dress instead today. Just
the ear thing. Yeah. That's so your thought-provoking question yielded a not so thought-provoking answer. Is that good enough for you?
But that is the best part because you just never know what you're gonna get. You just never know what you're gonna get. Like another one that we've asked before, but maybe I could actually twist it a little bit because earlier you said that you really enjoy making content for the child to be the person that you didn't have when you needed somebody.
Yes.
Who is that person, and how do you fulfill that?
Someone who was. So the thing is, when you say being your authentic self or unapologetically you, it sounds so cliche because that's what we all want to be. But really, I don't want to be afraid of who I am. I know that I am different. So I'm also on the autism spectrum. So I was always different, even as a little girl. But I just didn't know. I'm a late diagnosis autist. So it was only when I was 30 that I was diagnosed. And so for me, it was about like feeling on the outside of all times, not knowing where I fit in. And now I know that I don't need to fit in anywhere. So I wasn't in a stable of horses. I wasn't the wrong horse. I was a zebra. I was supposed to run on the savannah instead. And that's great to have in mind that, I'm differently built. I'm not a horse. I want that girl or someone else to be like, okay, I can be different too, or I can own my struggles and not be afraid of speaking about them because we don't have to conform. Still, obviously, you have to fit in some kind of type of way in society, but you can be a version of you that fits into that and still be you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, I think a lot of people can relate to that growing up. I mean, even the people that fit in really well, of course, it's like in totally different ways and everything like that. But even the people that fit in really well, especially when you're talking about middle school and high school, when kids can become quite mean and things like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of the only time in life that you're forced into a context, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Then you just got to deal with it and like tough shit. And after that, you kind of choose, where do I go to school? Where do I want to live? Who do I want my friends to be? Who do I want my friends not to be? Do I want to go home and be with my family, or do I never want to see them again?
Where do I work? Where do I not? Yeah.
But during that time, you're forced. And maybe that person, that kid who's like fits in perfectly, maybe their parents were like horrible parents or whatever the case may be, but they're stuck in that situation. So I think that message that you put out, it can resonate so broadly, and that's really cool.
I hope so.
Yeah, it's really been a pleasure. I was just thinking in my head, I don't think we've ever laughed so much through
that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Just the way you're able to convey a message that's so relatable for so many have really been impressive for me. And one of the takeaways that you also said in the beginning is we all want stoppable content.
Yeah.
Like that's why we go into social media. We want that thing that makes us stop scrolling. And if that's relatable and it entertains us, then we get the dopamine and we get like maybe some kind of community feeling.
Yeah.
Which is why we talked about the memes, which they kind of create, right? And then also finding the right pathway to yourself to really like try and deep dive, right? And also it's just been incredible to see how you've been able to turn a decline, life decline, into something else. But my belief is we all decline until we hit the rock bottom. And then there's only one way up from there. But some people, they just never hit rock bottom, unfortunately. But I'm really, really happy that you're able to share and you want to share your story on social media.
That's the more important thing, because it's about wanting to share it as well. And sometimes I feel like I have to.
Yeah.
Because I don't see a lot of it. So it's also like I feel like there's a sense of duty there.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have something that's a little bit different, or you have a unique story about, maybe it's about obstacles, maybe it's about trauma, and you're good at conveying those stories, I feel like you have to do it.
Yeah.
Because people need it, and not everybody can tell those stories. And so I am, just by coincidence, I'm also a good communicator, and I know how to tell a good story. So if I can put those two together, then suddenly we have something better.
Yeah. And that brings me to my last thing that I wrote down is like, we are our stories. And that's what makes us unique. So if you want to create a unique brand, which we all do, then just throw yourself into your stories and share them.
Yeah. That's a great last point.
Yeah, definitely. Like I also had that, like you said quite early on about, for you it's memes, but for any kind of content creator, whatever you make, it's trying to create that stoppable moment from the scrolling. And I haven't thought about it from that perspective specifically before. And I thought that was a really interesting approach to it. I loved about like trusting your gut and knowing not necessarily, is it just a yes, but like when you can feel you're going against that gut feeling, you kind of, a light bulb needs to go off, or a warning light maybe, that's just like, you know what, like this probably isn't something for me, and really like leaning into that. And we just touched on it, but I just really like the concept of being somebody that you needed in the past, because we all have that opportunity now. We all have the opportunity to be that human that we needed at some point, or maybe that we need right now. Like that you also
at least in the personal brand, it's different when we talk in corporate, right? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
But still, there's a moment of that. Like if you want to create the sense of community, take because I think we're also blending the lines more and more. We're favoring individual stories more than we are the corporate stories.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a way of like blending those two, I find.
Do you want to share your Insta handle or any other ones if people wanted to follow you or anything like that?
Oh, sure. I mean, first of all, if anyone out there is struggling with migraines or just starting out as entrepreneurs, being moms on the side, something like that, and they felt like they could relate to some of my struggles and stories, please write me if you have any questions or if you have any insights that you want to share with me, or maybe that you need to learn something from my experiences. Please, my inbox is always open, and you can find me on Instagram at @unknownsimone, or you can find me on LinkedIn. Those are probably the two platforms where I'm most active, but my inbox is always open and I always answer to all messages.
And we will put the links in the description.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, both of you.
It's been a pleasure.
You as well.
And we look forward to being added to the spicy list.
See you in the comment section.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Growing Forward podcast.